In the West, the patriarchy of immigrants from cultures that have not caught on the freedom and equality ideal for women is not subjected to the same critical scrutiny as is the patriarchy of the white man. Now, why? There are different reasons, but the most salient is multiculturalism. If, to some of you, multiculturalism means that people of different ethnic, religious, and cultural backgrounds can live together in a liberal society where they all uphold the rule of law, then that's one thing. No rational person is opposed to that arrangement. Human diversity can sometimes be enlightening, enthralling, and otherwise enjoyable. But multiculturalism in liberal societies has morphed into something else altogether. As a harmonious model of live and let live, where every community asserts only those aspects of their identity, such as food, fashion, and spirituality, that are compatible with the norms, values, and rule of law that exists in liberal societies, is only in theory. You find that in textbooks of academic institutions that are out of touch. You find it in the editorial rooms of leading newspapers, radio, and television channels that are even more out of touch. And in the narrow minds of politicians who court immigrant, self-appointed leaders so that they can mobilize the vote of those communities who are least likely to educate themselves on the political choices of the day. Multiculturalism is no longer a model of racial, religious, and cultural harmony, if it ever was that. Multiculturalism is indifference disguised as tolerance. It allows the free and affluent person to turn his back on those whose freedoms and rights are compromised, on the poor and the most vulnerable. It gives people an excuse to claim tolerance in the face of intolerance. Multiculturalism is moral racism disguised as broad-mindedness. The left-leaning white man and woman holds himself or herself and other white people to the highest of moral standards, but employs 5 or more syllable words and lengthy sentences to justify why the Indonesian, the Iranian, the Nigerian, the Arab, the Aborigine, the African American, the Native American must be excused for observing peculiar customs. Multiculturalism is apartheid, disguised as pluralism. Immigrant minorities are told that they can benefit from the opportunities and services provided by the liberal nation-state, but at the same time, they can remain loyal to the societies that they emigrated from, and in many cases, the societies that they fled. They can remain loyal to their forefathers' religion and so on. But when the locals complain about this rights-only and no obligations deal, the multiculturalist condemns them as racists, provincials, intolerant, and you name it. Meanwhile, social cohesion is the casualty, and society fragments, and dangerously so. Look at Europe. Multiculturalism is bad for women. Western feminists, as a result of multiculturalism, have neglected systematically and failed miserably to include immigrant women in the emancipation project in any meaningful way. There are exceptions, but that is the sad truth. Is it Western feminists who should be taking on immigrant misogynists? You bet. Feminists, Western and non-Western, need to be dexterous in taking apart the logic of multiculturalism. Feminists must unite to question Islam and the religions of other immigrants into the West, the way Western feminists questioned and continue to question Christianity and Judaism. Immigration from cultures that have not wholly accepted that women are and should be free and equal before the law as men challenge this culture of freedom and equality. This flow of people from cultures still inherently hostile to women, combined with the prevalent attitude of multiculturalism in the West today, presents a fresh challenge to the completion of the process of women's liberation, if it will ever be complete. And in many ways, this combination of assertive misogyny promoted by some immigrant communities on the one hand, plus the attitude of moral relativism in the West on the other hand, are a setback that could derail the women's project of liberation. Certainly, not all immigrant individuals are hostile to women. Thousands, if not millions of people from countries with limited or no political and economic freedom come to the West in search of a better life. Once they establish themselves, these individuals adapt and not only take advantage of the political and economic opportunities here, but they also learn about, they respect, and they apply within their families the rights and freedoms of girls and women. And that fact is also worth celebrating. But this point should not obscure the other darker fact that there are an increasing number of immigrants who come to the West, who acquaint themselves with the culture of gender equality, who are appalled by it, and who strive to reverse it. These individuals start their campaign against women in their own homes, so that their first victims are their own daughters, sisters, cousins, wives, and other relatives. And today, those immigrants who want to compromise the rights and freedoms of women justify the oppression of women in the name of freedom of religion and the equality of cultures. It is interesting that they invoke freedom to take away the freedom of others. I want to conclude that as a woman living in the West, I have so much to be thankful for. We have so much to celebrate. But also, we have so much work to do. And as the world gets smaller and more connected, the narrative of freedom is rubbing off on people of different cultures and religions, however remote. We see that in the Middle East today. But it's not only the narrative of freedom that is finding fans. Various narratives hostile to women are also gaining ground. Ladies and gentlemen, but especially ladies, we better push back now while we can. Thank you very much.